Hello there and welcome to another edition of Andy's Shared Life. This is Series 8, Episode 22 for Sunday the 30th of May 2021. Hello there everybody, how are you? Hope you are well on this fine and actually quite sunny outside Sunday evening this evening. It's not a bad old day out there today. Just getting everything up and running here for the stream this evening. We've got we've got a bit of a delay. Right, I see what's happening there. Right, I've got a bit of a delay, so I've got to disappear just for 2 seconds. Then I will be back. There you go. That's better. I think my delay's gone now. So yeah, I've got a bit of a delay. Sometimes get it with the software that we're using. Basically, you have to turn it off and on again to make it all work. I'm just getting things set up. As you know, I have the chat on my phone normally, so I've just got to go in and grab that. Just bear with me 1 second and I will be there, hopefully. That's it. That's tonight's stream. There we go. And I will plug it in. And who have we got in the chat already tonight? Oh, crikey, we've got quite a few people. We've got Jimmy, we've got Christopher 2000, we've got Dominic, we've got Penfold 50, we've got Paul Nolan, we've got Funky Fitz, we've got Wesley. I think that's it. I think I've mentioned everybody. Everybody who's shown up at least. There are more people than that watching. I just can't say hello to you until you say something in the chat. I also know Arthur's watching. Who's been in touch with me by email this week, but he says he can't make the chat work for some reason. Not quite sure why, but that's what he says. But he's been in touch with me by email anyway, so he still manages to get in touch. In fact, we've got some of Arthur's photos on the show in a moment or two. So, right. Here we are. Let's get going. Right, what is everybody saying? Dominic says he's looking forward to this Centenary Neophone. He says he was in Hull yesterday. Oh, that could be the home of this, Dominic. What's coming up on here tonight? And Wesley says, I just heard Andy preparing in the background. A true professional. Oh, I'm not sure about that, Wesley. I'm not sure about that. Wesley says, are you delaying, Andy, while you earth up those spuds? Done it, Wesley. I've done it this afternoon and we filmed it. There'll be a video out soon about it. Yeah, done it this afternoon. And Christopher's got his 746L phone soon. He says he's got it soon. So I don't know if that must be a typo. I don't know if he's actually got it or if he's not quite got it yet. Christopher says, did you get my email of telephones in TV shows? I did. They're coming up in a minute, Christopher. Oh, and Jim Fuller's here as well. Hello, Jim. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Right, it's been a busy old week this week. I don't know where the time's gone again. It's another one of them where I just don't know where the weeks go. I really do not know where the weeks go. What's all this I've got here? Right, that's all done. I can put that there out of the way. Yeah, I've just got no idea where the weeks disappear to at the moment. I could do with about 30 hours in a day and about 9 days in a week, and then I might actually get somewhere. But apart from that, no. So yes, we've got all sorts on the old telephone line on tonight. We've got all sorts. There's all sorts of things turned up. Hang on, I've got to move over there a bit. Yeah, we've got all sorts turned up. Like I say, we are going to have a Centenary Neophone, or a Centenary Neophone rather, on in a little while. Shooting some of my cameras in. I can actually make them see what they're supposed to be seeing. Yeah, so there'll be a Centenary Neophone on in a little while's time. But before we go any further, I better do a bit of the housekeeping as we normally do on a Sunday night, and tell you that if you want to contact us here at the show, you can do. You can contact us by going here, andyshed.copress.net, and you'll find our website there. And on that website you will be able to find a contact us form and fill that form in, and basically that pings me an email if you want to get in touch with us. That is the way to do it. And also remember, if you want to support the show, you can do it here on Patreon. There's one or two people who are Patreon members now, who get sort of extra stuff during the week that nobody else sees. For just the equivalent of £1 a month, you can join us on Patreon, and you too can get that extra little bit of content to help your week go a bit faster. It's www.patreon.com/AndyShed if you want to join us on there. And of course, another way to support the show, if you want to, if you're watching us live on YouTube, of course you can send us graphics and highlighted things, and by sending us a super chat through the YouTube system as well. Right, well, crack on, shall we? Because we've got rather a lot to get through tonight. If only I could manage to press the right button. I can never find the right button. Right, here we go. So let's see if we can make this kind of make sense then. By the way, are we in sync tonight? Am I reasonably in sync if I do this? Is it reasonably synced up? It doesn't look it at this end, but then it never does. Alright, what are people saying in the chat? Paul says he's looking forward to seeing the Centenary Neophone. He says, been a good week at his end. He thinks his fiancée has bought him that unissued 706 from eBay for his birthday. Is she not keeping it a secret? If she was keeping it a secret, it's probably out now. He says, and we went to see the steam railway that we'll be getting married on next year. Which one? Which one, Paul? Where are you getting married on the steam train? I'll tell you now, wedding dresses and steam engines don't mix. I'll tell you now from experience of seeing people get married on steam trains before. Do not let her go on the engine. That's all I can say. Right, Christopher says, did you get the email of my phone case? I don't think I have, Christopher. Don't think I've got that one. Although I may have got it and just not checked it, because it's been a bit manic this afternoon. So if you've sent it me recently, it may be here, but I've just not seen it yet. Dominic says, congratulations, Paul. Yeah, Paul, of course, congratulations. Dominic says he's visited Bridlington this week to take photographs of semaphore signals that are going in October. Ah, that's a bit of a shame. Right, I can't read and talk at the same time, that's my problem. Oh, Paul says it's the Bluebell Railway in Sussex where he's getting married. I know a fellow who used to be the manager of the Bluebell Railway, a chap called Martin Miller, and he left to become the manager of the Tramway Museum at Crouch. Yeah, nice railway, the Bluebell, nice. It's one of the few railways that don't paint their coaches that horrible, dirty, faded maroon colour. They paint them a nice shade of green on the Bluebell generally. Yeah. And I'm in the Midlands. I'm a bit controversial. That maroon is horrible. Maroon drab. Right. We'll crack on, shall we? I think we've got through the chat now. Right, as I say, we've had a few photos and that this week. First few here are from Christopher 2000 out there in Australia. If you've not checked out his YouTube channel, by the way, if you're into all railways and indeed telephones, check out his YouTube channels, of which there are now 2. He's now got 2 YouTube channels. He's got Christopher 2000 for the trains, and come on, Christopher, tell what it is. It's Christopher 2000 telephones for the telephones. Have I got that right? I've feeling I've messed that up. But he'll tell you in the chat what it is anyway. But he sent in a few photos this week. One of the great things about Australia, this alone almost makes me want to go to Australia. This alone will be a good reason to visit Australia. They still run Love Thy Neighbour on TV in Australia, and here's the proof. From this is a scene from Love Thy Neighbour that Christopher's grabbed this week. And look on the table there in front of that guy. There's what Christopher says is an N1900. It might not necessarily be. It might be a GEC Geckophone or Geekophone as they call them. But it is certainly a 706 clone. Could be an Ericsson, might not be. That's sat there on the table there in Love Thy Neighbour. And also in Love Thy Neighbour, there's another one. Is it the same phone, you ask yourself, that they've put on a different set? Because it looks the same, doesn't it? Is it the same one they've put on a different set? But again, it's a scene from Love Thy Neighbour, of course, a sitcom from the 1970s, made here in the UK. By ITV, I believe it was. And there's also a movie of Love Thy Neighbour as well. There's a big screen movie of it where they're all on a boat. And then another 70s icon, I'm going to get you, butler. Yeah, it's Blakey from On the Buses. And it seems like he's got a 300 series phone on the sideboard there at the side of him. I'm not going to do Blakey again, I just can't carry on with it. Now this one's interesting. This is interesting. And what does everybody think that is? I think this one was sent in to us by Arthur, this one. Tell me what you think that is. I'll give the chat time to catch up. Because this is odd. While I'm giving the chat time to catch up, I will actually catch up on the chat myself. Dominic says he's always wanted to visit the Bluebell Railway. And Chris says the last semaphore distance signal in the main line is going soon because of new regulations, but that's in Australia, of course, not in the UK. Paul says it's well worth a visit down to the Bluebell. He says late grandfather used to be the manager there years ago. Another manager of the Bluebell Railway. Your grandfather wasn't Martin Miller, was it? Was it, Paul? No, can't have been. Surely not. If your grandfather was Martin Miller, that would be an unbelievable coincidence. Wesley says, "Get that bus out." Yeah. No, say that. That was more like Roland Rat than more like Roland Rat than Blakey, wasn't it? That. Yeah. Go on. So what do we think? What do we think his phone is then? Dominic says it's a Mark 1 Concorde Blue 746. All right. Well, give that. Might be. It does appear to have a metal finger wheel on it though, Dominic. It says the case looks a bit long. I think the reason the case looks a bit long, I think this is a 1970s television program that was made on a 4:3 format, being shown on a 16:9 widescreen TV screen. And I think they've pulled it out. I think they've stretched it. They've anamorphically stretched it. So things look a bit wider than they should do. They're basically not showing it in the right format. But this is a 1970s TV show. Have a guess what TV show it is. Because it's interesting. In fact, I'm just going to check what TV show it is, because I'm not sure I entirely believe it, to be honest with you. Just let me check. It's one of those things where you think, no, that can't be right. But I think it is. Right. Alright, yeah, I've checked it and it's right. Right, believe it or not, and this is hard to believe, and I've got no idea why this is, and I'm hoping somebody can explain this. That phone, which is obviously a British 700 series phone, was on a 1970s edition of the Rockford Files. And the Rockford Files, as most of you will know, of course, is a US made, or was a US made show in the 1970s. So, can anybody tell me what a British phone is doing in an episode of in a mid-1970s episode of the Rockford Files? If you know, answers on the proverbial postcard, please. And while we're on with these oddball phones and that, Frank Spencer's got quite a few on the wall. Yeah, this is from an episode of Some Mothers Do Have Them, and where I think he was in a phone shop in this. But there's some really weird and wonderful things on the wall there, some of which I don't even recognise. What's he got on the top row? He's got a grey 700. He's got a black 700 something lurking in the corner. He's got an ivory 746 over 706 come down, and he's got one of those 1970s or early 80s special range candlesticks that's actually nothing like a candlestick. Next to it, then, it looks like it may have got a ambassador with a dial. It may be. I'm not sure about that. Then he's got a trim phone in the middle. But next to that, working our way from sort of right to left, what is that? Right in the middle of the shot there. Unfortunately, I can't zoom in on it, I don't think. But what is that? Has anybody got any ideas what that is? I've got none. Again, answers on the proverbial postcard, please, if you can tell us what that is. And here's again a slightly different shot, and you can see he's got a push button trim phone on the bottom row there as well. Also, what looks like it might be could it be a contemporary on the bottom there? A strange dark coloured contemporary? I don't know. Dominic says it's like a BT shop in there. It is like a BT shop in there. I think it was supposed to be a BT shop. Wesley says, I can remember that episode. Crikey, I can't remember much about Some Mothers Do Have Them. I remember the one where the house falls down as he's coming out the door. And he sort of closes the door and the whole front falls off the house. Because apparently they did that for real. Believe it or not. Wesley says, was it James Garner in the Rockford Files? It was, Wesley. It was James Garner. So we don't know. Dominic thinks it might be a pie clone, possibly, by judging what looks like a badge on the back. He says, can I go back to that? Let's see if I can go back to it. There it is. Oh yeah, it's got something on the back, hasn't it? Yeah, just above where the cords come out. Interesting. We will figure that one out and let you know. Right, and we've not finished yet, because as well as Frank Spencer, Arthur sent this picture to me. Now, explain these, please, somebody. Because I can't. Not quite sure what's going on here. These are actually chrome plated trim phones. They are silver in reality, apparently. And I don't know the story behind them. Arthur, sorry, didn't tell me the story. He just sent the photos and said, what do you make of these? Well, there you have it. Chrome plated trim phones. And they look like genuine trim phones to me. You know, they don't look like replicas. Oh, I've gone around the loop. They don't look like replicas. They look like genuine trim phones. Blake 7 trim phones, says Wesley. Could be. Paul, used to love Blake 7. Yeah, better than Doctor Who, wasn't it? Controversial. Oh, Christopher says, is telephone channel is Christopher 2000 telephone channel on YouTube. If you want to watch Christopher's telephone videos, what you've done here tonight, Christopher 2000 telephone channel on YouTube. If you want to see some of the telephones that he's got. But back to these momentarily, because what I think these might be is in the maybe 1990s, early 2000s, there was a guy out in East Anglia in a place called Chatteris near Cambridgeshire who used to refurbish old telephones. He used to get genuine telephones, normally 700 type, normally 706 or 746s, and put new cases on them, and he did them by the thousand. He had cases made in different colours, and he took thousands and thousands of telephones and recased them. And when you see them now with like purple cases or orange cases or pink cases, they're probably ones that he did. Now he stopped doing it a few years ago and sold off all his stock of spare cases and that. And other people sort of bought the stock and have done a few since. But I'm vaguely thinking that he did chrome plated sort of 746s or 706s. So I'm wondering if these have got something to do with him. If they are genuine trim phones, and they look like they might be genuine grey trim phones that have been recased by him. That's what it looks like to me. Now, there was a gold one of these, or something very, very similar to this, done with gold plating, that was done in the in either the late 60s or very early 1970s for the television show Golden Shot. If you look around the internet, you can find stills of the Golden Shot with Bob Monkhouse talking on this gold trim phone. Now, I don't know what happened to that trim phone. I don't know how they did it, who made it, how they got it even, because they must have bought it from STC. It must not have been a GPO issued trim phone, because the GPO basically wouldn't let you paint their phones that basically they still owned, or plate them in whatever way you do it. So they must have got that from STC somehow. But yeah, so there was definitely a gold one on the Golden Shot that was done in a very similar way to these, because as you can see, they are properly metallic. It's not like metallic spray paint. They are properly sort of chrome plated. And if you're asking yourself, how do you chrome plate plastic, it is possible. What I believe they do is they spray the plastic first with a kind of paint or ink that is in some way conductive. You know, it's got some kind of metal content in it. This paint that they use. So they spray it with a metallized conductive paint first, and then they just electroplate it. You know, they put it in a solution of whatever and electroplate it, just like you would electroplate anything else. Because once it's got this paint layer on it, it is in effect like metal. Right, what are people up to in the chat? Penfold says they could be Space 1999 trim phones. No, I don't think they use trim phone. I don't think they used any kind of phone on Space 1999. I think they had a thing that was a bit like a periscope on the desk, if I remember right, in Space 1999. It was obviously a prop. I don't think they used any kind of telephone. If they did use a telephone in Space 1999, I have a feeling it would have been an Ericaphone. But I'm not 100% on that one. Christopher says, Love Thy Neighbour is not on TV in Australia, it's a DVD I got. And I've got the On the Buses DVDs too. Ah, so it's not worth going to Australia then. You can't watch Love Thy Neighbour if you go there. Sorry about that. Sorry if you just booked your ticket for Australia. And Christopher says he thinks his N1970B phone has a Diacon case. Can anybody tell Christopher how to identify a Diacon case as opposed to an ABS one? I believe they have different moulding numbers in them somewhere, but I can't remember off the top of my head what they are. Paul says, Dominic is right. I've seen the odd 746 in pure chrome on eBay. What did Dominic say? I missed that. Where is he? Dominic says, my guess is the Rockford Files phone is probably the result of a prop house buying a 700 clone phone so they could provide a stand-in international phone to US TV studios, and they just got it wrong in that particular episode. That could well be right, Dominic. That could well be right. And he also says he thinks he's seen a Chrome 746 on eBay a while back. Yeah, they do pop up, these Chrome phones. They are new cases. But I've not seen it done on a trim phone before. So I don't know where these Chromey trim phones have come from. But they do actually look quite good, don't they? But I do want a gold one, as in the Golden Shot one. What happened to the Golden Shot? Somebody must have that Golden Shot trim phone somewhere. I would be willing to bet somebody's got that somewhere. And I'm willing to bet it was probably Bob Monkhouse, because Bob saved everything. Wesley says, look for a 12 in the casting if he recalls right. It's a 12 somewhere cast into the case of your phone if it's made out of Diacon, and a 17 if it's ABS. Yeah, I think that's right. Don't ask me why they use 12 and 17. I don't know, but I think that's right there. What Dominic says. I think it's 12 for Diacon and 17 for ABS. Normally stamped inside in, I think, in a little circle or something, somewhere inside all the plastic parts. Right, we'll crack on, shall we? Blooming heck, we've been here 35 minutes already. Alright, I just need to reset myself. I'll be back in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. And I'm back. And you can see I've now got something on the desk. I'll put it over there a minute so it disappears for a sec. Yeah, we've had a few new arrivals this week. I'm going to do this one first because this one's probably going to be on next week, but nonetheless it arrived this week. Here it is. Because I want to ask you something about this. This is an old candlestick phone. I believe it's a 150. It was a telephone number 2 because it says so up here, but the tele number 2's been crossed out, and normally they stamp 150 into it when they cross it out, but they've not stamped it in on this occasion. They've just left the telephone number 2 crossed out. But the telephone 150 was the first candlestick phone with a dial, and as you can see, this has got a dial 10 that's all seized up and basically needs a lot of work on it. But so we think this is a telephone number 2 that's been turned into a 150, and that happened a lot. But what I want to know is, why has it got 2 holes there? We'll say that one's for the cords to come out of, and both cords generally come out of the same hole, the line cord and the cord that goes to the receiver, that should of course hang on the hook here. The receiver is totally missing off this, as you can see it's in a bit of a state. So assuming that's the hole for the cords to come out of, what's that hole for? I've got absolutely no idea, can't find any information anywhere about it. So if you know, please get in touch with us. You know, contact us form on the website if you've not got the email address, andyshed.coldpress.net, and let me know what you think that that other hole is for, because it is very, very, very strange, and it's got the same grommet around it as well, so it looks like an original-ish hole. But, so I have no idea what's going on there, but I will say about it, this whole base, it all looks like one piece, and it's got the thing for the dial there. You know, it's shaped for the dial. Now if that was a base from a telephone 2, it wouldn't have that for the dial. That would have to be an added on piece after, but it looks like it's all one bit. But we'll find out when we take it all apart next week. What there is in this hole, in this one of the 2 holes, there is like a brass thread, as if it's for screwing a little light bulb into or something. Did some of these have little tiny light bulbs down there? Did the GPO think like 100 years ahead and think, oh, we'll make a light on our telephone so people don't have to convert them in 100 years time and make them look silly? So did the GPO actually put a light on there themselves? I don't know, but there is a little screw thread in it. So we'll put that on the show next week perhaps, and you can have a look at that. It's the first one I've got with this sort of mouthpiece on it as well. Pretty good, eh? Pretty cool. I was carefully sitting in front of that so you couldn't see it before. Dominic says it looks like a fairly early number 10 dial too. Yeah, I think it probably is, Dominic. So we've got to clean it up and have a little look at it. Yeah. Have a look inside the mic cover and earpiece cover, says Wesley. Dominic says it's not the very early dial with the small dial label, I think, but all the earlier ones were painted black. Yeah, that's a black one. I'm not sure they were painted black. I think it was done chemically somehow, because I think they're brass. So yeah, so we'll look at that further next week. We'll go into that a little bit further next week. But for now, for this week, we're going to have a little look at this, which has magically appeared. This is the previously advertised Centenary Neophone that's turned up, and there's been some work to do. That's all I can say about this. There's been some work to do on it. Now, here we have to say a big thank you to Bob Freshwater and his website that a lot of you in the UK will be familiar with, that tells you all you want to know about converting British telephones. Unfortunately, this is one of the cases where the information that Bob's been given to put on his website is not entirely right. So when you come to try and convert one of these to modern plug and socket, it's a bit of a nightmare. The first problem is there were 3 versions of these. There was the one that was originally made by Siemens from about 1958 onwards. There was the one that was made by AEI when AEI took over Siemens, and there was a version made for Kingston Communications in Hull. Now, for those of you who don't know, Kingston Communications were a local authority owned company, and they were the only one in the UK that survived that was a municipally owned telephone company. All other places in the UK, places that had them, they got absorbed first into the National Telephone Company and then into what eventually became the Post Office and now is BT. But Kingston Communications, or Kingston upon Hull Telephones as they were, and KCOM as they are now, survived. And although they used some GPO type equipment, famously the red phone boxes painted cream, they used some equipment that wasn't GPO as well, and a lot of the phones that are on the Kingston Communications system, not all of them, but a lot of them, were these. Yeah, a lot of them were these Centenary Neophones. Now this one's quite unusual, because if you look closely at it, it doesn't show up very well on the camera. It's got a dial bezel on it, which if I'm very clever I can probably sneak off, because it's not actually stuck. Can I sneak it off so you can have a closer look? Maybe not. Of course I'm doing it backwards and upside down and all sorts as well. Take my word for it. There we go. I've snuck it off. It's got a dial bell, and I don't know if you can see very faintly, there are letters on that. Now, that is a lettered bezel. Now, these were quite rare, and I don't know if Kingston Communications had these with the lettered bezel on, or if they were just blank like that. Most Centenary Neophones are blank like that. Having this bezel on is quite rare. Now, I've seen another picture of one of these, this colour actually. This is a genuine colour. This is a genuine colour combination. It's not something somebody's made up. They were bright, shall we say. And the picture I've seen of one this colour has got one of these bezels, and the letters on it are black. So what I'm planning to do with this, because you can kind of see where this has not gone dark, where the letters were, what I'm planning to do is try and get some letter set or something similar and put these letters back on to this bezel so you can see them again. So that's what I'm planning to do with it, and that it also really wants a new curly cord, because it's got breaks in the outer plastic in a few places, like there you can see, but it does actually surprisingly work. You know, it is operational. I can ring it and you'll hear it ring. There you go, and I can do the old blow test down it, where you blow down one and listen in the other, and then you blow down this one and listen in that one. Yeah, and it does work. So yeah, but it didn't work when it arrived. It had a few problems. Firstly, a lot of it wasn't wired up. The curly cord was hanging out the back, and it wasn't actually in the back of the phone. This little grommet here, which is some kind of foam actually, this little grommet, this wasn't present, and it was only when I took the phone apart and took the circuit board out of the inside that I actually found this grommet wedged under the circuit board. So I've put it back in. Well, we can see this is a late model one because it says AEI on the back of it rather than Siemens. And when I looked on Bob Freshwater's website, he's got schematic diagrams of these, and he's got the 3 versions, and this is not like any of the 3 versions, but the one it's closest to is the Kingston Communications version. That's the one it's close. It's not exactly the same, but it's closer to the Kingston Communications one than it is to the others. So the question today is, did this phone come from Kingston Communications in Hull or not? And I know what you're doing. You're shouting, turn it over, turn it over. I'll turn it over, and there's absolutely nothing on the bottom of there at all to tell you anything. Absolutely nothing. So we don't know. We've got no idea what the story is with it. Paul says that Neophone is special. Dominic says, I have to say, although very interesting, the Centenary Neophone does look ugly in my opinion. Does it? I thought it was one of the less ugly phones that I've seen. There are some. Ericsson made some horrible things for a while, but I thought, I don't know. I'm just not sure about the colour of it. I think it would help not being the colour of Coco the Clown personally, but yeah, I'm just not sure about the colour of it. Dominic says it has the same dumpy look the compacts have. It does a bit. It looks smaller than a 706 or something, but I have to tell you, it's not. It's not a lot smaller. It may be a little bit smaller, but it's not a lot smaller. Fungi says it has the 1950s look to it, which it does, and it reminds me of Festival of Britain and sort of atomic design furniture and things like that. I can just imagine it sat on a Formica table with wire legs with those little balls on the bottom, can't you? Right, I'm just looking through all the chat there. Yeah, so here we are. Here we have it. So, do you want me to take the top off it so you can have a look inside and see what's in there? Because as far as I know, for anybody wanting to convert one of these, there's no simple way of doing it. And like I say, Bob's website is a little bit wrong. It gives you some of the basics, but there's certain things it doesn't tell you too well. Right, so what you do to take one of these apart, there's 2 screws. I have to say, I always complain about GPO stuff being difficult to get the cases on and off. Siemens and AEI have cracked it with this. The 700 series, massive backward step from this. This is very similar how it comes apart to an American 500 series, because just like an American 500 series, 2 screws underneath, basically one at the back, one at the front, bit off centre. Screws come out. They are retained, the screws. You turn it back the right way up. I'll do it sideways on this. And you can just lift it straight off. And I'll take that little insert out there, and you can just lift it straight off. No messing about having to tip it and get it round clips and things. It just lifts straight off, and then the dial bezel drops on the floor. There we go. And there you can see that now the bezel was glued on, and will be glued on again probably when I complete it. Sit up there, you. Right, so there you have it. There's what's inside it. As you can see, it's very similar to a 706 or a 746 with a circuit board. This was one of the first uses of a printed circuit board. This was very early for a printed circuit board. A lot of companies that were making telephones in the UK didn't have the ability to make printed circuit boards, which is why some of the 706s are wired on a plastic base rather than having a circuit board in them. But Siemens could do it and did do it, and it's beautifully simple. It really is beautifully simple inside. You've got a few resistors and things, big capacitor that of course you now wire out. You've got your induction coil and your bell set, which is very similar to, if not identical to, a GPO bell set. So, what do you have to do to make one of these work on the modern plug and socket system? Well, first, you have to make sure the handset's wired right. The handset, you've basically got a white, a green and a red cord from the handset. The red goes to T1, the white goes to T11, the green goes to T6, and it's just a 3-core cord to the handset, okay? The line cord on these Kingston communication type systems or type phones, the line cord took a bit of working out. Basically, the 2 sides of your line, the red and the white of this cord, if you can, I can sort of untangle it a bit. The white goes to T3, yeah, and then there's a jumper from T3 to T4. The red goes up here to T7, and the blue, which is your bell wire, goes to T8. These 2 pink wires here go off to the bell set. So what's happening here, your bell circuit is from the blue through the pink, through the 2 bell coils in series, back through the other pink, and then back into the white, into the line. So actually where this link is here, this should be, for the modern plug and socket system, this link should be a resistor. So what you need to do is measure how many ohms these bell coils are by putting a meter set to ohms across these two pink wires. Find out how many ohms the bell coil is, and then put a resistor in here between 3 and 4 that makes it as close as you can get it, basically using standard value resistors, to 4000 ohms. So for instance, when you've got a normal 700 series phone with two 500 ohm bell coils in series, that's 1000 ohms in total. So you then need another 3000 ohms to get it up to 4000 ohms. So we actually put a 3.3 kilo ohm or 3.3 thousand ohm resistor in normally, because that's the nearest standard value resistor you can get. You can't get just a 3000 ohm resistor, it's a 3.3. So that's why we put a 3.3 kilo ohm resistor in there normally. But I'm not sure what these bell coils are with it being non-standard. So one job that I've got to do at some point is test those with a multimeter, take them off, test the coils with a multimeter, see how many ohms the coils are, and then I can take that link out there and put in a resistor of the correct value. Now, how do you get though the capacitor out of service? How do you do that? Well, that's not easy, because as you can see, there's not so many terminals on here as there are on a normal 706 or 746. So not everything goes to a terminal. So certain things are just wired on the circuit board. In fact, the only terminals with nothing on the back of them that don't go anywhere are 4 and E. E is for earth. For these phones used to be earth. Now there's nothing on the back of there now, so in the modern world all I've done is I've just parked the green of the line cord on earth, because obviously we don't use the green of the line cord normally, so I've just parked that on earth, because it doesn't go anywhere. Neither does 4. There's nothing on the circuit board to number 4, but there is to number 3, and number 3 is jumpered to 4 to do the bell circuit. So how do you get that big capacitor out? Well, there's 2 wire links on the board, and it took me ages to figure this out, but down here there's a piece of wire, or there was a piece of wire, that just popped up through a hole in the circuit board, went across and down through another hole in the circuit board, and that was a wire link. And there's another one at this side here, and the remains of this one are still in, because I've cut it basically, but it's in there. I don't know if you can see that or not in there, but there's a little piece of wire in there that I cut that pops up through the circuit board, goes across and back down through the circuit board again. There's only 2 of them there, and what you have to do is cut both of them. And just by snipping through both of those wire links, it's better than taking the whole capacitor out, which is the other way of doing it, because at least the phone still looks pretty original, and if you did want to put it back to original, all you've got to do, the capacitor is still there, so all you've got to do is replace those 2 wire links with a bit of wire again. So you have to remember to cut those 2 wire links, but do that, and then that is how you wire it. So your handset is wired red to T1, white to T11, and green to whatever I said it was, T6. That's your handset cord. And then your line cord is white to T3, which is jumpered to T4, and that is where you should put a resistor, possibly a 3.3 kilo ohm or possibly a different value. Then you've got the green of your line cord parked on earth. You've then got your red of your line cord to T7, and you've got the blue of your line cord to T8. Now this works on this particular variety, which is very similar to the Kingston Communication ones. As I say, there are other types that are a little bit different, so you really do have to follow schematics if you can find them, to try and figure out what you're supposed to be doing with these. But this one, I'm pleased to say, now works. I did have problems with it. I had problems with it being intermittently loud and then quiet in the handset, and I thought, what's happening here? And I had no idea, and I shook the phone, and when I shook the phone it was having an influence on it. And then I realised that on the bottom of the induction coil, that is just soldered into the circuit board with its own sort of with its own terminals sort of thing, soldered in through holes in the circuit board. And on one of them there was a dry solder joint, and it was moving about a bit, it was wiggling around, because it's quite a heavy thing, the induction coil, and that was making it go loud, quiet. So I had to reflow the solder. I had to take this circuit board out, reflow the solder on the connections on the back to the induction coil, and after that it's been totally fine. Right, shall we try and put the cover back on it? Before we do that, though, I've just got to go for a quick break. Back in a tick. And we are back, and here we are now going to put this back on. Right, so I'll leave the bezel off for a minute, show you how easy this is. Famous last words. So here's your phone. Here, just all you do, the GPO could have learnt a lot from this, is just stick that back in like that. And then you can basically just drop the whole thing back on. It's as simple as that. Do up those two captive screws, bop, bop, and it's back together. And I can put that dial bezel back on for now. Not if it's going to sit there. Put handset back on the rest, and there you have it. It's as simple as that to do. The GPO could have learnt a lot about case design from that. Some people call these a horseshoe phone because of this shape around here as well. So if ever you hear of a horseshoe phone, it's one of these. But you'll notice, interestingly, that this has got a GPO dial 21 on it. With a metal finger wheel. Now often when you get a GPO dial 21 and a metal finger wheel, you can't put your finger in the holes because the metal finger wheel is actually one for a dial 12 that has a raised lump in the middle of the dial, but when you put it on a dial 21, the finger wheel sits too close to the numbers, so you can't put your fingers in deep enough to comfortably dial. But this one you can. So obviously the finger wheel has got a special standoff on the back because it is quite comfortable to dial with this one. So which way am I going on the camera? That way. Also I found this capacitor inside it as well, wired across a couple of the terminals inside, and apparently they used to put these in as part of party line working, and of course I don't want to do party line working with it now, so I took this massive, well, it's not massive as capacitors go really, is it, but this massive thing out, and it's working fine. You know, it dials out and everything, and I do that and I can go 21 on my system, and it dials the other phone here. You see, if I do that on 21, it dials the black phone. If I pick it up, it stops ringing, and then I can put it all back down again. So there you have it. That is a Siemens Neophone. Right, what are people saying about it in the old chat? Jimmy says it looks like a two-tone phone. It would look better if it was all one colour. Yeah, I think I agree with you there, Jimmy. Christopher says, is CNET working properly on your end tonight? Because I've been having problems dialing the speaking clock. And I, of course, tested the N1002. Yeah, leave it till after the show, Christopher, because people can't hear you. So, but yeah, I'm just trying to think. The speaking clock doesn't come from me. It routes elsewhere to get the speaking clock. So it may be their server that's down, which is why you've been having trouble ringing the speaking clock. Basically, if you can ring one of your numbers, Christopher, to the other number, the server here is working, because you've got two numbers, haven't you? If you can ring one to the other, the server here is working. If you can't ring the speaking clock, it's because the speaking clock, which is on a separate server, that one's down, and I've got no control over that one. Dominic says, does KCOM have a single ring cadence? Do they have the standard double ring? That's a good question. I would assume they have the standard double ring, but there's no reason to assume that. And it may, if you ring a KCOM phone, you may get a standard ring at your end in the handset, but the actual phone might be doing a single one, because what you get in the handset is not necessarily related to what the phone is actually doing. So the phone can be doing a weird ring, and you can be just hearing a normal ring as you are calling somebody. Christopher says, GPO 746 phones were used in Australia train stations. Yeah, the 746s were used in Australia, Christopher, but were they also used in America on the Rockford files? That's what we want to know tonight. He says he was also told by a V-Line train driver who told me in one of his videos on his main channel that the Australian Railways used Ericsson phones, the upside down version of the N1900, in signal boxes. Yeah, they probably did. London Underground used them as well. The upside down phones. Not again though, not always Ericsson. GEC made some as well that were upside down, because there is one here. Right. Matthew Jenkins is with us. Hello, Matthew. Sorry, I missed his comment earlier. He says it's an interesting phone, this thing that you've got here. This thing. And for its day, quite fun. Yeah, it's very, very 50s, isn't it? I can imagine it. You know how people had sort of bright Formica tables and chairs and sort of plastic tablecloths and very bright curtains and stuff in the 50s, and that I can imagine it being in a 1950s house, and it would have fit right in. That would, I think. It's very, very, very 50s. They're also quite desirable. It's rare you get one. I think I only got this one off eBay because it was basically in bits and nobody else fancied trying to put it back together. Dominic says he's warming to it a little bit now. Yeah, you will, Dominic. You could get all different colour combinations with them. You could get a grey one with a maroon handset as well. You could get a totally black one. I've also seen a very dark coloured one. This is on a bit of old film though. I've seen a very dark coloured one. It may have been a very dark blue or possibly black with an ivory handset. That one looked quite smart. I quite liked that one. Cool. Christopher says his friend in the signal box told him the model number on the upside down phone was N1900E240. It could have been. It could have been. That's an unusual one. I've heard of N1900E244, but I've never heard of N1900E240, so that could have been an upside down version of it. Christopher says, can you get the WK ring on a Grandstream ATA? Yes, basically. You have to go into the settings of the ATA and you have to put in some numbers for the cadence that you want. And that you should be, don't ask me what numbers you put in though to do it, because I don't know. But you put in like a string of numbers that give data to the ATA of what electrical signal to send out and hence what ring to do. So I believe you can do it on a Grandstream one, you can do it on various ones. It's a slightly different in the setup for all different ATAs, but a lot of them can do it. You just have to find the right place in the setup pages for your ATA to do it, but you have to input a string of numbers to do it, to alter the cadence. Personally, I never bother. I always leave the cadence of the phones running through the ATA as what it is on the ATA. But that's just me. I know some people who do bother and go to great lengths to get the old British ringtones and things. What you all on about? Rogford Files, Nobby Styles. Yeah, that's Cockney rhyme slang for piles, isn't it? This is not going where I expected it to go tonight. This isn't. Right. So there you have it. So we've sorted this, haven't we? We've had a little look at this. The line cord on this is quite interesting because it's got a black curly cord. I've seen one other with a black curly cord, but normally they didn't have a black curly cord. They didn't have that. They normally had, and I've got a bit of it somewhere. Oh, come on, where's it gone? They, find it in a minute. They normally had normally had this. Can you see that? This, which is a 3-core line cord, red, white and green, as many were, and it's kind of a got like a cotton covering on it. So a lot of these had this, but I don't know if this one, being a late model one, I don't know if this particular phone had this as a handset, but a lot did. But I've got a recovered piece of this that I took off something else, so I may be able to replace this dodgy curly cord with a bit of this. But it does look messy because of course this doesn't curl. So when you put a reasonably long piece of this on, if I could untangle it, when you have a reasonably long piece of this on a phone, of course it sort of goes everywhere and sits everywhere and looks a right mess on the desk. So I don't quite know what I'm going to do. Might try and use a bit of 700 series line cord, curly cord rather than put on it, or whether to put that cloth cord on it. What do you think? What should I do? It's a dilemma, isn't it? Penfold says he's never seen a Neophone before. It looks alright. Yeah, this is actually a Centenary Neophone. A Neophone is a different thing. A Neophone is a Bakelite phone, again made by Siemens. Came out in either 1920 or 1930, I'm not sure. And it's a bit like a GPO 200 series phone sat on its bell set, but it's all one piece. So it's not a phone with a bell set bolted to the bottom. It's or is it? Is it in two pieces? A Neophone. I always get a Centenary Neophone and a GEC Geekophone mixed up because they were a very, very similar thing. One of them's one piece and the other's two pieces, but they both look like what we would now call a GPO pyramid phone. A king pyramid, as they call them these days, although that's not an old name, that's a modern name that somebody's come up with for them. Christopher says, did you get a picture of 711 war phone on the buses? No, I don't think I did, Christopher. Simple answer to that one. Wesley says, I should use whatever is available as the cord for now. Well, they're both available, Wesley, that's the problem. I'm trying to figure out which one's right. Christopher says he tried setting up the UK double ring on his Grandstream ATA, but obviously it's not worked. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure how you do it, Christopher. Like I say, I've never bothered, I've never gone into it. Wesley says he thinks that the Geekophone is the one-piece one and the Neophone is the two-piece one. I think you may be right. Dominic says, yeah, the Geekophone was the one-piece one, he thinks as well. Yeah, I think you're right. I believe there are original Neophones on the Royal Train, and they have remained there at the request of Prince Charles, so I'm told. Jim says he happened upon this a few days ago on the Grandstream ATA UK dial tone, and it tells you what codes to put in there, Christopher. So if you're looking at the chat, or if you're looking at it sort of on the side of the screen there, Jim's come up with the codes that you put in, and he thinks they're right to make the Grandstream ATA do the UK dial tone. Dominic says the Siemens Neophone, the original Neophone, is very similar to a 200 series phone, but also was available in a mottled brown finish, which the 200 series never came in. Yeah, it was available in, I think it was gold as well, but the gold ones were painted, and they were in was it the Glen Eagles Hotel, the gold ones? And somebody stripped one of the gold ones off and found it's mottled brown underneath. So if you've got a mottled brown one, which we don't think were ever released, the mottled brown Neophones, what you've actually got is probably something that's starting out as a gold one from this hotel. I think think it's the Gleneagles Hotel, but I'm not totally sure. Jimmy says Prince Charles might watch your show. He might. You never know. You never quite know who's watching this. I always wonder sometimes who's watching it, because I know all the people who take part in the chat, but I know there's also more people watching than take part in the chat. So there's a lot of people and there's a lot of people that watch it after the event as well. A few hours later. Oh, by the way, if you watched last week's show, I'm sorry, the adverts were all out of sync in the wrong places. This is YouTube stupidity again, because we do the bit before the show normally that I didn't actually do tonight because I didn't have time. But there's normally about a quarter of an hour of pre-show to give people time to sort of get online and get the computer and things set up. Where we play a bit of music and stuff, and a countdown. Because we do that, when YouTube has ingested all this into its system and it's all settled down, I normally chop that bit off. But then it has to sort of re-ingest and all settle down again. So the show starts at the beginning. You don't have to watch that pre-show bit for a quarter of an hour, 20 minutes. What I did last week, I placed all the adverts very carefully where they should be. So I took the ones out that YouTube had automatically generated because they put them in stupid places, and they put too many in as well. I took all those out, put the adverts where they should be. Then, and this is on YouTube system, I then chopped off that bit of pre-show. And when I chopped off the pre-show, it obviously moved all the rest of the show up, so the 6 o'clock time point became the starting point. But what it didn't do, it didn't move up where the adverts were. So instead of moving the show and the adverts together in time, it just moved the show and left the adverts where they were. So the adverts were about 10 minutes, quarter of an hour out of sync of where they should have been. So sorry about that. I have now fixed it. I've gone back into it this afternoon and fixed it that. So if you want to watch last week's show, you'll now find the ads are in the ad breaks where they should be. I think. Dominic says he thinks the Queen is a viewer and that ivory phone of hers was part of one's eBay trawling. Yeah, could be. Fungi says Gleneagles didn't want that at any price. The GPO then recovered them in silver paint. I don't think it was a GPO though, Fungi. I think it was Siemens who did it. I don't think they were GPO phones. They were silver, were they? Or were they gold? I think they were gold. I think I've seen a gold one, an original gold one. But I'm not sure. Christopher says he got some information about about red wall phones in fire stations, and he's writing it in the chat now. Right, this will be interesting when it comes up, because we've been trying to figure out for ages and ages if fire stations actually had red wall phones. Did they make a very small number of red 711s and 741s just to go in fire stations, or did they use grey ones and just put a red dial bezel on them? Fungi says he thinks those phones were silver. I think gold, Fungi. I'm fairly sure they were gold, but I wouldn't swear to it. He says he missed one 3 years ago. It says the silver paint was slowly revealing the mottled brown underneath. Christopher says red walls phones he thinks were... Oh, the message disappeared. He said he thinks red wall phones were specifically made for fire stations. They may have been. All I can say is I've never seen one. Fungi says, I stupidly told the wrong person of this actual phone being for sale. This is the one, the painted one from the hotel. He says, that's probably why I never got it. Dominic says, so they are genuine. Yes, the red wall phones apparently then are genuine. Well, that causes a problem now, because how do you identify a genuine red wall phone from one that's been made by somebody like Britphone yesterday? Because to be honest, red cases for wall phones are tuppence a ton now. There's lots of them out there. Yeah. Oh well, yes, Fungi missed out on these phones from the hotel, apparently. Not Tory Fungi, others will turn up, I'm sure. I'm pretty sure they will. Right, we'll move on to the next bit, shall we? Back in a sec. And we're back. I've cleared the decks while I was doing that. Fungi says this phone from the hotel sold to a USA collector for over £12,000. £12,000. They can have it. They can have it. They're welcome to it. Basically, if anybody ever tries to sell you a phone for anything over 500 quid, no matter what it is, laugh at them and walk away. It's not worth it. Nothing out there is worth more than 500 quid. I don't care what some idiot who lists something on eBay thinks. It's not worth more than 500 quid. It's a piece of old, superannuated equipment. It probably won't work. It's probably been messed with. There were a number of them made. You know, it's not unique. Whatever it is, you know, 500 quid, absolute maximum. Absolute maximum. In fact, I wouldn't pay over £100 for anything. I've never. I think the most I've ever paid for any phone is 40 quid. But people are paying stupid prices, and it's just driving up prices ridiculously, and I just walk away. I just walk away. So 700 phone, something like that. It goes over 10 quid, I walk away. And that, because there are so many out there, you can afford to walk away, and that. But people, for those red 706s, people will pay 50, 60, 70 quid. But like I say, it goes over a tenner, I walk away, go to the next one. There's loads. Wesley says he's never paid that much for a car. No, me neither, Wesley. I can't believe that price. I think I'm going to spray paint a Neophone gold immediately. Fungi says to him the colour after resto was not too good. Could have been due to the view camera settings. Penfold says £40, most 746s over that now on eBay. No, I don't. There's a lot on eBay for stupid money. Doesn't mean anybody buys them, and I certainly don't. But I'm continuously buying things. But you have to find it at the right price. When people say make me an offer, then for a 700 phone, my offer is a tenner. That's what I say to everybody. Everybody who comes up to me and wants to sell me a phone, and various people do, various dealers and that sometimes come up to me and say, Andy, do you want to buy these phones? And I see the 700 series, it might be 746s, 706s, whatever. It doesn't matter to me what condition they're in. I just go £10, £10, £10, £10, because I don't know if they're going to work or not. And I say to the dealers that, don't restore them. I say, because I'm not going to give you any more money for you having restored it, or for somebody having restored it, than I would if it was not restored. Because I see so many things that have not been restored properly and have to be done again, that I think putting this phone as restored is a total waste of time. It makes no difference to me at all. Because, I mean, we've opened them up here on the channel. On this show, we've opened up phones that have supposedly been restored, and there's been things like no resistor put into something with 500 ohm bell coils and stuff like that, where they should be. And then somebody's going to get that home and find out it doesn't ring, or the other phones in their house don't ring because that's drawing all the power and stuff. And I get people all the time contacting me saying, I've got this phone and I plug it in and it doesn't ring, and then you have to sort of go through all the things it might be, and all the checks that you do, you know, unplug that one, plug a different phone in, unplug everything else in your house, check all the little ADSL filters are working right, and that. But often it's purely and simply somebody who has restored a phone and not done it right. Dominic says, I haven't got any phones recently because the prices are going up. Yeah, well, the thing is, the prices are only going up because people will let them shove up. I mean, I've been looking at some 700 series phones on eBay over the last couple of days. I think they were somewhere in a haul. Some of you will probably have seen them. There were a couple of batches listed, and they'd listed 3 phones in a set. I think one was a green one, an ivory one, and a red one, and I think the others were the grey one, an ivory one, and a green one, an ivory one, and a black one, and I think the others was a black one and a grey one and an ivory one. And my bid basically for the 3 phones, I thought 3 phones, £10, £10, £10. Thought, but they're in a set. Thought I'm not going over 20 quid, so I put a 20 quid bid in, because at 5 quid postage, that was going to be 25 quid, so nearly 30 quid there. So I went 20 quid, and when it said you have been outbid, it came through my phone, you have been outbid. Did I put in another bid? No, I just deleted it off my phone and forgot about it and went on to the next one. So that's the thing, you have to forget about stuff and wait, and it'll come round again. Fungi says, I like it when phones arrive with dead spiders and plenty of dirt. That way you can be fairly sure it's a non-messed with phone. Yes, I totally agree, Fungi. When they come covered in dirt, I don't know if you saw my unboxing video of those ones that arrived a few weeks ago, but they'd obviously been like under a workbench in a garage or something for years and years and years and years, and the layer of dirt basically made the phone 1/2 inch bigger on either side. You know, yeah. I've never seen such filthy phones. I knew they were going to be filthy because I'd seen pictures of them. So when the box arrived, I thought this is going to be a great unboxing because there are going to be dead spiders and that in this box. So I videoed it and made a video of it. Look for the video of the worst, most filthy phones ever. It came out a month or a couple of months ago, and it just me unboxing these very, very filthy phones. But in them was something quite rare in amongst them. Red wall phones were made in Australia. Christopher says they made some for fire stations in Australia. Red wall phones. Were they 700 types though, Christopher, or were they something else? Were they something else from the PMG in Australia? Dominic says, I always check for an old line cord attached, as that's normally the first thing to be messed with. Yeah, if they've got the old line cord on, then chances are it's right. But I have had some recently with the wrong coloured line cords on, so they had been messed with. You know, when you get a yellow one with an ivory line cord or something, you think, GPO wouldn't have done that. Somebody's got one that they thought's near enough and put on. Penfold 50 says, what is the cure for bell tinkle? Do you have to use a thermistor 2A? Right. Where can I start with this? Right, the first thing to do is go through all the sockets in your house and take off the green wire in the back of all the sockets. That I am told helps. But the bell tinkle thing, I never get it. I never get the bell tinkle. But maybe it's because I'm using a PABX. So actually there's only one phone on an extension on the PABX, because every socket in the house is basically its own extension. So I've got nothing where I've got two phones wired together. But yeah, it's to do with the blue wire. That's why you have the blue wire. Basically to send the bell current down, and the blue wire is connected to the capacitor, which is now in the line jack rather than in the phone, and this is why you have to do all this messing with the phone. If you've got bell tinkle, it's probably something to do with your house not being wired right, or more likely it's a phone that's been converted just by wiring up the red and the white wires into a BT plug, and just wiring that into the phone and not bothering with the blue one, and also not bothering with taking the capacitor in the phone out of service. So that's possibly what's happened. It's possibly something that's not been converted right somewhere along the line. Fungi says he got a batch on eBay from a garage. They came covered in at least 2 litres of oil, totally black, but one was a perfect but filthy trim phone. Wesley says you need to have the third wire to suppress the bell tinkle. Yes, the blue wire, yeah. Fungi says, due to the level of oil splashing around in the garage, I think some must have landed on the dial, because it dials perfectly, even covered in goo, so it's kept it lubricated by the looks of it. Wesley says it's more likely that one or more sockets is missing the third wire. Yeah, but a lot of sockets have got 4 on. They've got a green wire as well. Oh, and the green one apparently is the one you take off, I believe. Jimmy Meyer says, what's bell tinkle? Yeah, I've never had the problem, Jimmy. So, but a lot of people do have these tinkling bells. It's when you've got 2 phones on one extension, basically. So you've got your drop wire coming into your house, you've got a telephone, bump, and then you've got the wires continue, the 2 wires continue, and you've got another telephone. So you've got like one in your hallway and one in your bedroom or something like that. And when you dial on one of them, it makes the other one tinkle because the impulses generated and make the other phone tinkle. There are all kinds of ways. The Americans do it by putting bias springs on the on the bell mechanisms, so it always pulls the bell clapper slightly one way, and that stops it. But in the UK, I don't think they've ever done it with bias springs. But that's the way of doing it in America. Jimmy says, my 706 sometimes when it rings, it does a single tinkle before it starts ringing. Yeah, that's probably something to do with the capacitor charging up in it. But yeah, a lot do that. Well, it says you don't need 4 wires. You just need 2, 3 and 5. Yes, I'll go with that. You don't need 4. So number 4 is the one you take off, which is the green one. That's from the back of your socket, by the way. That's the green wire in the back of your, if you take the socket apart, it's the green wire in the back of the socket. Well, it says thermistors were used in days of ultra-stop bell tinkle with GPO extension plan arrangements. Fungi says, due to dodgy sellers on various sites, I'm put off buying. Fungi Fit says, if you stopped them, it stopped. I got my GPO 746L phone for $60 in Australia, says Christopher. I don't know what the exchange rate is with Australian dollars, but yeah, you probably pay. The thing is, you'll probably have the same problem that I have with buying stuff from America. You pay more for the postage than you do for the item. I mean, there's an American war phone on the wall just up here, out of shot of the camera. And I think that cost me about 40 quid. It was like £10 for the phone and £30 for the postage. The postage rates for America are just absolutely ridiculous. Fungi says, I don't know whatever I purchase will be both fit for purchase and well wrapped properly to endure a rough trip in the post. Well, that is the other problem as well when you're buying stuff. Will it reach you safely? And I know Christopher's asked me about this a couple of times when he's been thinking about buying stuff from the UK, and he said, Andy, is this Diacon? Because if it is Diacon, do you think it would survive the trip to Australia? And the answer is probably not if it was Diacon. So yeah. Changing the subject, it's Bank Holiday Monday tomorrow. Dominic says, do lots of people ask you to do dog walking on Bank Holiday Monday? No, it's the other way around, because most people are at home to walk their own dog on a Bank Holiday Monday, Dominic. And anyway, I wouldn't on a Bank Holiday Monday. They'd be told politely to go away. Fungi says, I'm hanging on to when your shop is fully stocked and up and running. I need plenty of bits and parts, but don't want to risk eBay, etc. Yeah, well, send me a message, Fungi, and ask me what you want. Yeah, I think you've got my email address, haven't you? Send me a list, rather. Not ask me what you want. Send me a list of the bits that you're looking for, because the problem is, I've got this online shop, yeah, andsemporium.coldpress.net, but I never get round to putting stuff in it. Because listing things on it, it's quite an involved process, because you have to take pictures of it and then you have to create the listing and things and that. So I've got loads of stuff that I might only have one of, that I think, is it really worth putting a listing on, because I've only got one of that. So so if there's things that if there's bits that you need, let me know, and if I've got them and I've got any sort of spare available for sale, I will let you know. But I do sell bits and pieces, and I do also swap bits and pieces, and sometimes swap phones and stuff as well. And yes, Christopher, I've not forgotten. Because we were going to do a telephone swap. I've not forgotten that. Funky said he mainly wants cables, leads, and definitely a pair of crimpers. Crimpers to crimp what? Because they're a bit... The crimpers are a bit hit and miss, shall we say. They're all a bit hit and miss, the crimpers are. Even the ones that the GPI engineers use are a bit hit and miss. Dominic says, if you have any lettered red dial bezels, that would be handy. Yes, it would, wouldn't it? Now, dial bezels. What did I do with those dial bezels? Dial bezels are a real pain, because here's the thing where people are remaking them and remaking them wrong. But so finding a proper one is not easy. You're on about that, aren't you, Dominic? One of those. I've got 3 here, not in brilliant condition. They need work doing on the paintwork on them, particularly on the red one. But these are proper dial bezels, and I'll show you on this one, because it shows up better on the camera. A lettered dial bezel like that should be flat. It should be totally flat. If you look at that, if I get that right in the camera, you see it is totally flat. There's no little clips or anything on the back of it. It's completely and totally flat. It should be shiny on the front, and it should be matte on the back. And the reason is because it's actually made out of clear plastic, and then it is back painted. So they don't paint this side, they don't put the letters on that on this side, because obviously with years of use and people rubbing their hands on it, the printing would rub off. So what they used to do was cast these in clear plastic, then on the back they print the letters and numbers in reverse, and then over the top of that they print the background colour. So you put the foreground colour on first, the letters and numbers, and then you put the background colour on, because obviously you're doing it on the back. So it's a bit like backwards painting. I used to know an old chap who used to do sign writing. Remember when old shops and that, if you ever go to places like Beamish Open Air Museum, and the old shops have their name written in gold on the window, normally in sort of arch shape in the window, you know, so and so's greengrocers, and it's written on the glass in the window. Well, he used to do that. So he could paint in reverse, and he actually painted a picture, a proper like oil paints picture of, I think it was the Queen Mary ship or something, and he'd done it in reverse on a piece of glass. So the first thing he painted was little bobs of white for the portholes of the ship. Then the next thing he painted was the superstructure of the ship. Then the next thing he painted was the sea behind the ship. and just painted over the ship for the sea, because of course you're looking at it from the other side. So you just painted over the ship to do the sea. You didn't have to paint around anything. And then you painted over the whole thing blue to do the sky. And when you looked at it the other way around, from the other side of the glass, of course, it was all still there. So this is what these should be. They should be painted on the back, and they'll be matte on the back. And you get them in the right kind of light. You'll see little raised bits where the paint of the letters and the numbers is, and so it'll not be entirely flat. But that is what they should be. Yeah, they should not be done on one of these, because this is from a 746, a later 746, and this is an alteration of how the things were designed. And you can see when I hold that, it's not flat, it's got these little things on the back, these things that lock in to the nail bezel, as most of you probably know. But somebody now, one of these remanufacturing people, is taking these and screen printing letters and numbers on the front of them. It's completely wrong, it looks wrong, and of course it doesn't last, because as years go by this gets touched and that, because it's really near the dial, and they rub off. Why those people that are going to the trouble of remanufacturing these, why do it wrong when you could just manufacture a flat disc, clear, and do it properly? Even if you only manufactured the flat disc and didn't paint it, just make the see-through flat disc and leave it to somebody else to put the letters and that on. You know, that will not be beyond the wit of man with a printer and some decor paper. But just make these. So whenever I see these, even if they're not in very good condition, like this one, this red one, and you can see, look at where the T and that is. Where is it? Somewhere here. Look there somewhere. You can see like through it, because the red paint's come off the back. You see. So that either needs the red paint touching up or everything taking off, so it's just a clear disc again, and then redoing. But that one, if you get it in the right light on the back, you can, I don't know if you can see it, you can kind of see where the red is printed over the top of the letters. Can you see that? And then of course it shows through on that side, and that's how you should do it. But to find these are like hen's teeth to find. So in fact they're the first ones I've bought as a spare part. And we're back on the stream. Sorry, stream cut out there on me, but as I was saying, because those dial bezels are flat, they have to have one of these metal rings to hold them on. So you need one of these as well as the bezel. As well as the bezel itself. So you need the flat bit and you need the metal bit. The only time one with the plastic clips on the back is right is when it's one of these things made up. And what that is, it's a normal bezel like that one, a blank one, but then it has another piece stuck on the top of it, and these are printed on the surface, but these are genuine. And what these were for, well, these were for visually impaired people, just bigger numbers so you could see them on the phone. So these are genuine. You find these stuck on the surface of one of these and it doesn't look genuine, but it is. I've seen a number of them over the years, and in fact I've got 2 of them here. There we go, and there's another one. So they are genuine. So yeah, so that's all the oddball bits. But maybe somebody should make those dial bezels, those flat clear dial bezels. Maybe somebody should manufacture them. See, I don't know anything about plastics manufacturing personally. I don't know how you would go about getting such a thing remade, or indeed if there would be enough call to have them remade, if enough people would want them. That's the question, to make it being worthwhile having them remade. But obviously somebody's having the others made, so they must think it's worthwhile. Right, it's almost time to go. What's people saying? Christopher says the red wall phone I saw on the website was a GCE Red Zone 11 wall phone. I said I got a dial 12 last week in bits. I had to rebuild the dial. Yeah, I hope you didn't have to take the little stack of things apart in the back of a dial 12. The little stack of things that that holds all the contacts together, because that little stack of things is an absolute nightmare if you have to take that apart and alter the contacts. Try and get it back together in the right order. It's a real nightmare. I struggle with it. Right, that is about as far as we go, I think, for today. I'll just give you a moment in case anybody wants to say anything else in the chat. Just a reminder, going through the week, I know I said this at the top of the show, but I'll give it a plug again. Going through the week, I do now put stuff on a blog for the Patreon subscribers, the people who basically subscribe for the £1 a month on the old Patreon feed there. If you want to join them, go to patreon.com/AndyShed. Like I say, it's £1 a month, although it does sometimes tell you it in dollars. It'll say like $1 so many cents, but it is actually what equates to £1 at the time. It's just that Patreon is an American based site, but it does only cost you £1. It's £1 a month, and basically that just helps us with the running costs of the internet connections and that we use to make this show. And the more people join up on stuff like Patreon, the more we can do. Remember, if you've not done so already, give us a like on the old YouTube there, and also subscribe, please, if you've not done that already as well, because every subscriber helps. The more subscribers we get and the more likes a video gets, more importantly, the more YouTube promote it, so that all helps. Fungi says it's a great show as usual. Have a great week. Thank you very much, Fungi. You too. Christopher says, can I give you a ring after the stream? I've got to go straight out after this, Christopher, so I won't be here for a while, but give me a ring any other evening of the week. Any of you on CNET, you want to give us a ring, $2.90 if you are on our CNET servers. If you're on the Stavely or Clown servers, dial $2.90 any other night of the week, Christopher, but literally as soon as I turn this computer off, I've got to sprint out the door. So yeah, any other evening. Dominic says he's having a barbecue pizza tonight. Yeah, I'm not terribly keen on barbecue sauce, Dominic, so I'll give that one a miss, I think. Yeah, not overly keen on barbecue. Christopher says he did put the little stack back on the dial. But did you take the little stack apart, though? That's the question. If you didn't, don't. Leave it alone, because it's a nightmare. Jimmy says, hope you all have a good week. Yeah, you too, Jimmy. Nice to see you all here again, of course, in the chat, as always. And as always, if you don't already know the secret email address that we don't mention on here, because generates loads of spam if we do. You can always contact us by other means, generally through the website analystshed.coldpress.net. You will find a contact us form on there. And as we were talking about the shop earlier, here's the link to it, and it's emporium.coldpress.net. And I promise I will get more stuff put on it one of these days and get it finished off on that, because it is a bit of a work in progress, that is. But yeah, I'll get it done one of these days. Watch out in the week. If I get a chance to do the editing, there'll be some garden videos in the week for those of you that like to ask about potatoes and things. But until next time, hopefully we will be back here same time, same place next week around about 6 p.m. I'm talking about doing a midweek one of these as well. And I keep talking about it, but I'm not quite sure when in midweek to do it. So if anybody's got any preferences, what day we should do it and what time, let me know. But from me, for now, have a great week ahead. I'm off to, well, tidy up some of this mess I've made here. I've got stuff all around tonight. And then, like I say, I've got to shoot out the door. And I will see you same time, same place next week. But for me, for now, ta-ra!